And live. All right. You shouldn't need to do anything.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Sorry. It's very lovely everyone's getting on. It's really nice. Sorry, but we're now live. So as we do say, these are recorded. So if you feel a bit funny about asking a question and having your voice heard, it can only see me, it can't see anyone else. That's the point of how we set it up. You know, maybe just whisper and I'll come over and try and listen. I'll repeat the question if you feel a bit funny. I've got two of the worst people to have here.
What?
These two are hecklers.
Well,
Hello.
So I apologise profusely for them and on behalf of them because they will heckle.
Yeah, we want to apologise, so that's fine.
Right, so we're live. So okay, so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Deb. I call myself a kink shrink on FetLife. It means fuck all. It means fuck all for anything. There is no such thing as a kink qualification. Doesn't mean a thing. It's a title, and I do numerous workshops. I've been doing this one for the last 7 years now, I think, roughly. It's crazy. We started it and it was like, oh, this is quite popular. Should we do it more often? And then it was, well, we'll just wind it down. And now we can't wind it down. It just keeps going and going. So I think there's one in the corner out there. Sorry. So they've just become more and more popular. And also I run a workshop on a Thursday night. It's free of charge for anybody who wants to come along. And it's on Zoom, and that's all about kink stuff, poly stuff, communication, sex, drugs, rock and roll. So it's just everything that you can think of that we cover on a Thursday as well. And that can have anywhere between like 40 people to like 150 people, and it really, really varies as to how many people come, and it depends on what the topics are. But the topics are always asked for by anybody who asks. The idea of this workshop is that I am a psychotherapist. That's what I do for a living, and I also happen to be kinky, and I've been kinky for 40 years in June. Fucking 57 in June. So it's 40 years in June. So that's crazy, isn't it? So, yeah, and I am a therapist. It's what I do for a living, and I have over 50,000 hours there as well. So, and I do run quite a few workshops around. And if you come to any of this, if you are involved, you don't have to say, please, if I ask you anything and you don't want to answer, just keep your hands down. Like there's no pressure here. Very much about consent, and I'm talking about consent at 4 o'clock. Interestingly, that I don't even believe it really exists. So that's it all. Ooh. So we're talking about being very clear on consent at 4 o'clock if you want to come back. So is anyone here a therapist or a counsellor or a psychologist or psychiatrist? If you are, get in contact with me. This is a 3-hour CPD. Believe me, take me up on it, because if you don't, it's 60 quid somewhere else. So it's really worth having. And I do a very proper, nice booklet. Right, so the idea of this workshop is whatever you want to ask, I answer. Well, depends actually, depends how personal it is. I'll probably answer that more for you than anything else, Naomi. So, but to give you a bit of history, I am a cis-born woman. I am queer. I tend to have relationships with men more than women. I slept with a lot of human beings. A lot of human beings. A high number. I have been kinky since I was 17. It was a very different time back then as well. It really was. There was no internet. I know there was no internet. It was run by magazines and all sorts of strange things, and you got yourself into parties. You'd have a forum magazine, all sorts of different things in those times. It was very, very different. And also way back then, when I were a lass, when I were young, it was also very much, I mean, consent didn't really exist, got to be honest. And it was all very much based on who you knew and how it worked. And there wasn't any such thing as someone coming in straight as a dominant or whatever they wanted. It was very much a working system of you built yourself up and you got your experience. So I've switched for about 20 years. I switch less now. Who I am is I like ultra-violence, I like degradation, humiliation, and I'm a cup queen. So that is who I am. And I'm submissive. I quite like service as well. So a variety of things. So the idea of these is you ask any question you want. It can be about poly, communication, relationships, mental health, you name it, and we go wherever you want to go. So this is start. Ultra-violence. It's the stuff people wouldn't necessarily like. So ultra-violence is more about being thumped, hit, backhanded across the bed, maybe a black eye, split lip, quite severe bruising. It's more on that end of the spectrum than this end of the spectrum. Clearly done with lots of consent and negotiation, and I won't play with anyone who doesn't know how to do CPR, care, any of those things, that gets to a very small circle of people sometimes. But yeah, I like ultra-violence more than I just like bending over and being flogged for something. If that makes sense. Well,
I thought you said ultra-violent.
well, that violent ones are next. So, you know, the same sort of thing. I do like a bit of electricity as well. I quite like something being written on me, like with a cautery pen, a bit more extreme, but hopefully something that fades over a while. So, being more on that end. So, as I say, these workshops are about anything. So, they can vary from mental health, God, so much. So, the idea is that you ask a question. Please feel free to answer and chip in as well, because we've all got experience, or less than, but we've all got ideas, because I think everybody knows themselves really well. Knowing yourself, especially if you're quite new. A lot if you just keep saying it, and you will meet somebody who will take the piss and go too far, guarantee it, and someone will hurt. So please just look after yourselves. What normally happens is we get to about 15 minutes before the end, and everyone puts their hands up and they grab me afterwards for an hour. So please, who wants to start the ball rolling with a question about anything? Always gets quite quiet.
At the start, you mentioned it's very different now without the internet and everything. I know in my experience, my introduction to kink was all online, and I think that's fairly similar to the majority of the younger generation. Do you think that's had a big, I mean, obviously you would have seen things change over time. Do you think that's had a big impact on?
I think it has for me personally, so I'll talk personally, for me it has a huge impact on accessibility, but it also has a huge impact on force, on people saying there are right ways and wrong ways. There are lots of experts on the scene. There's no such thing. There are people who have experience, but that experience could be really bad. Like I've looked at, they say bingo sometimes if I say the same thing again and again. So
You're pre-warning us.
I am. So I'm going to talk about PhDs. So bingo. I've looked at 2 potential PhDs, and that would make me an expert in that one very specific area. It would not make me an expert on kink. It would make me an expert in that very, very specific area, like the transgenerational epigenetic scripting of submissive women.
We were ready for it.
Or the retroactive withdrawal of consent as a form of moral violation. They're the 2 I'm interested in. But they don't, that's one area that I've researched. Kink is so vast. There are some great organisations and people going on now to investigate a lot more and to do the research, but it's not out there yet. Not really. There's very small research. It's very poorly done overall. Small area. So I think the biggest positive for me about the internet is it's accessible to everybody. I think that's wonderful. I mean, Jesus, the amount of time. There's some chairs in there. I don't know if someone wants to pull one up or round.
Stools. Stools.
Some stools. If you want to grab a stool, it's not the most exciting, but you don't have to. So, but there's a variety of. Feel free if you want to. So, but I think the most dangerous thing is its accessibility as well. So for me, the positives and the negatives are the same. There's an accessibility to people. I was just talking to somebody I know, and she was talking about her 14-year-old daughter being on the internet and how she was doing a TikTok and she got given a £200 voucher by a guy. And that was lovely. He asked for a picture of her in a tracksuit with bare feet, which she sent him. It sounds great, doesn't it? Until you find out that she's 14. And then you start to think, oh, why? But it's okay. She was dressed. It's not okay. She had bare feet. He's sexual. He's got a foot fetish. So that's a sexual. Absolutely not. She's a minor. So my problem is the accessibility, and my positivity is the accessibility. I think it's wonderful not to have to think, am I fucking weird? Where do I belong? Why do I like this shit? What's wrong with me? Which I think a lot of us in the old days had. Just looking at a few older people in the audience. If you are a bit older, I think that came up for us. Do I find someone who likes this? Or if you brought it up, some people just go, oh, you're weird. I'd also argue some people call themselves something, and I don't believe that they are those things. They think they are. I think there's some of that. That's a very unpopular opinion. Poly, I'm poly. Are you though? Are you really? Do you understand what polyamory actually means? Do you not want to commit? Do you want what? Are you just after sex? Are you after multiple partners and love? What does it mean, and can you handle it? The amount of couples and throuples and poly groups that I see and speak to, or solo poly, or different people who will turn around and say, oh no, I can't bear it if I know that they're doing this and that. And it's like, then it's going to cause issues in your relationship. So I think we can know too many titles. I'd argue about everything else as well. The amount of kids I see who will say to me, "Oh, I've got generalized anxiety disorder or anxiety," and I say, "Okay, so where did you get the diagnosis?" My mum.
Myself.
Yeah, or I looked it up on Google. Right, okay. And you know, and yes, maybe they do, but I think we have too much knowledge, too much accessibility. What's your experience? What do you think?
I wasn't expecting to answer.
And you don't have to. You can say "fuck off, Devin." It's fine.
No, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be who I am without, you know, the world being around my doorstep, being able to figure it out all for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely see where you're coming from. There's obviously positives and negatives to that.
Yeah. And it is magic. How wonderful that you can just go and buy something, and go and look at something, and go and find something that you want, to find acceptance, to find other people who think like us. That's really magic, because you can walk down the high street, and if you look around, there are a few people who are dressed up, but the majority of you in their clothes. So you're going to walk past somebody and go, hi, and you're not going to have any idea that they are kinky or alternative or different or in their way. It made me laugh. Some of the crew here, I was in Brighton on a first date the other day, because I come from near Brighton. And I'm walking along and I get this, "Deb!" And I'm like, and I
It was
turn
not
around,
me for the record.
and
Not
there's
me.
3 of the crew right there. And I'm like, "Hi," and I'm like, fuck, I'm on a kinky date, because if I was on a vanilla date, what? And I sort of said, you know, oh, so because thinking of their consent and where they are as well. I mean, they're walking around, they've got collars on, and they've got, they're very obviously alternative. So for that, I've got to make Brighton, but it's an interesting concept, isn't it? Because now does that mean something, doesn't it? And I said to them, knowing all of their names, "How do you want me to introduce you? Who are?" And they went, "Oh, no, so-and-so's fine." And so, I was like, "Okay, good. This is so-and-so, this is so-and-so." It was complex. That can happen anywhere you go, but the internet makes you famous in a different way, or known, your pictures, everything. I was at a cheer competition yesterday. I have a daughter who runs a cheer. I did 40,000 steps. I was wearing a bag on my back, so I'm feeling a bit like old today. But we had 17 people. We went back to this place where we were a year ago, which was very hidden because of COVID, and it was very like, go here, do this, do that. And this competition was really open. And we've got these 7 teams all competing. And people know who my daughter's gym are during the cheer world, because they're really good and they're quite loud. But I had somebody come up to me at the event last year and say, "Hi." And I was like, "Hi, is this about Zodiac?" She went, "No, you're the Kink Tree." And I went,
Not the crowd.
Not here, not now.
I've got 7-year-olds, and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and 13, all the way up to 25. Completely inappropriate. And that's part of the problem as well. It's someone sees your pictures or comes up to you, and believe me, this sort of shit does happen. They see your picture on FetLife or somewhere else, and they go, "Whoa," and then they meet you in a pub. I'm like, "Oh my God, are you..." Shut up. Some of us aren't out, some of us are. I'm completely out, it's not a problem. My daughter and her partner, everyone knows it's not a problem, but I'm not going to come out to a 12-year-old. Are you kidding me? Like, how inappropriate. So I think it's good and bad, I really do. I think it's wonderful that we have all this information at our fingertips, but I would also say, please read everything you read, including everything I write, with a pinch of salt. Double check it. How do they know that? Where's that information come from? Why are they putting themselves up there? What do they think they know? Why do they think they know it? And just because someone says this is really good, I've watched workshops and stuff. In fact, a friend of mine was at a workshop a couple of weeks ago and watched one, and this person was talking about autism, dissociative identity disorder, really, with no mental health expertise whatsoever, but was talking about it as a form of play. It's like, it's great if an alter does come up, because you can look like, no, that's some separate consent. You've got a shit ton of people there. Like, absolutely not. Like, really inappropriate stuff, because they don't know. So it's dangerous as well. And what we do should be fun. So I would just take everything you read as well, just like, yeah, maybe. Some people, maybe not. And I would go to people you trust, or find people you trust. Find people you can trust and ask them and talk to them and share your journey with them and have a much better time, is what I would always say. Find good creative people who sound, they know what they're sure they, or if they've got a lot of references in their writing or different things, so like it shows that they've really thought about what they're writing. Or they'll state whether it's an opinion. I get really cross with the amount of people that write and say, this is so. No, this is so some of the time for some people. It's like you might say, this is the answer to all of your ails, and someone else takes it and they go feel the same.
Hi, so my question is about neurodivergency and kink. Do you think, so when you do negotiations with someone before you do a scene, do you think that needs to be discussed a lot more, and how would you suggest going about that?
Yes, is the answer. But however, I think a lot more needs to be discussed before you go ahead with it anyway. Again, I'm talking about this quite a lot later. They'll say bingo again, I've got a really massive writing all about consent, but I've got a bigger writing on negotiation. How to, where do you start, what does that mean? And that's all on vet life. It's really important to negotiate. But first of all, before you start negotiating, you've got to know yourself, you've got to know what you want. And if you don't know what you want, that's okay, that can be fun, but then we need to go slow and build up and see where that's going to go and say, I like that, I don't like that, that's good, that's not good. Is that good for you? What do you think as well? Consent is 4 ways between 2 people. It's not just 1 or 2, it's 4 ways between 2 humans. So I think it's really important. And if you have neurodivergence, I think it depends on the neurodiversity. But if we're talking about things like ASD, which is the most classic, so anyone who's on the spectrum, it used to be called Asperger's, used to be called a lot of different things, or autism. It's now generalized ASD. That's what it's mainly called. Yes, because I think all of our brains work differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I need to understand your brain in order to gain your consent and vice versa. So for somebody, some people are very black and white. I was talking to someone upstairs who's actually ASD, and she said, oh, that sign really annoys me. And I said, oh, which sign? She said, well, that one that says the menu can be changed according to so-and-so, but it can't be because that is the menu. And she was really, and she's right. That was the menu. And it was really getting on her nerves that it couldn't be changed. Why is that sign up there? And it doesn't make any sense. Please stop that. And that's so like, how do I need to think about that if I'm about to play with that person? What do these words mean? And do people understand the implications of what we're saying? Because a lot of our filters and interpretations and language skills all comes into it. And our language skills are more than just language. Our language are like how do we use words? The amount of couples I see who are in trouble, or thruples, or polyfamilies, or different things, one of the things I always start with is words. Well, I want them to be loyal. Cool. What do you mean by the word loyal? Well, you know. No, I don't. I know what I know. I know what it means. I don't know what it means to you. And does your partners, do they know? And they're like, well, yeah, you know, it means this. And they're like, actually, no, it means this. And it's like, this is where we're going wrong. We're not discussing words. So if I come up to you and say, can I flog you? You might say, oh, yeah, that sounds nice. But with what? For how long? Where? On your skin? On your clothes?
Why?
So
Honestly,
many.
you don't know me at all. You see me walking around. Why do you think that the first thing that you're gonna come and tell me is, can I flog you? Why?
You've got a nice arse, Lauren.
Yeah, but what's in there for me?
What's in it for me? And do you know what? That's a really good question. It's someone asks me all the time. You get offers as human beings, and they go, oh my God, I could do all this for you. No, that's for you. You want that. No, but I could do this for you. I appreciate that. That's still for you. What's in it for me? I'm going to give you the best time.
Are you?
Can you define my best time for me, please?
We promised that before. It was very.
Because even if you think about vanilla human beings, when we're having a discussion, if I've got a couple who are in trouble, often what's wrong is the assumptions we make, the assumptions in language and the assumptions we make. And if you take 2 people, if we're a couple, and I go all out to please you for the next hour, okay, that could be a waste of an hour of my time unless I know what pleases you. I know what pleases me. Why don't I show you and share it with you? Even during sex, we don't do that enough. Oh, they're a millimetre off. This isn't going to work. No, it's all right. Put your head back in the game. You're there. Ooh. Oh my God, it's me. Why do they make that noise? Like it just doesn't work, does it? So we need to say, millimetre up, shut the fuck up, right? Please don't actually do that. It won't work.
Or do.
Or fun. Unless you're like very dominant, or maybe that'll work. But you know, you need to communicate. And no, we don't. We often fake, and believe me, lots of people fake. I've had this conversation many times, and I asked about it recently on FetLife, and I had about 130 answers of have you faked. And interestingly, it was mainly proportionately cis women. However, there were some cis men on there that also said that they faked as well. So, and I'm splitting those just as penis owners and vagina owners for now, because that was the whole point of that. But you'd be surprised how many penis owners, especially if they're using a condom, fake, because they tie it up, get rid of it, no one knows. I actually know of someone who goes slightly deflated, pees a little bit, so there's a little bit of liquid, and says, I've come. Did you consent to urine inside your vagina or arsehole? No, you didn't. Interesting. And that's quite a feat as well, by the way. It's not that easy to do. But also, if you own a vagina, it's very easy to fake it. I appreciate you're a human who will now turn around and say to me, no, I know. You don't. You'd be surprised what I can do with my internal pelvic floor and the noises I can make and all the other things and the shuddering that I can do to really be effective. And it's not when Harry met Sally, my whole cunt can vibrate around. Or your fist, or your hand, or your fingers, or whatever it is. It doesn't mean I've had an orgasm. And then people say, no, but she squirted. Yeah, that doesn't come with an orgasm. Does for some people, doesn't all the time. Yeah, but it means I had a good time. No, it means they squirted. So again, like, words are really important, understanding what we're saying and how it is. It's really difficult. So I think as well with neurodivergence, when we look at what's going on, and there are so many assumptions made as well. Oh, you've got ASD, I know all about that. Oh, you've got anxiety, I know all about that. No, I don't fucking know you. Even as a therapist with a shit ton of hours, when I meet someone, I don't turn and say, you don't have to tell me anything about your condition, I know all about it, sweetheart. Fucking patronising and horrific. I would never do that to you. Why would you do that to another human being? You need to say, tell me about you. Help me understand you. Help me understand you in this moment. I really want to get to know you. I want to know how it impacts your life. And actually, does it matter or not? If I meet someone who's got OCD, if there's a light and they tap it 3 times, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter unless it matters to them. It might annoy you if they tap it 3 times and turn the light off before they go out. It might annoy me if somebody's then going back to lock the door just to check, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, half an hour later, and we're driving around the roundabout 30 times. That's when it might impact me. But if it doesn't matter to them and they're not late for things, who cares? Who cares? It just doesn't matter unless it bothers them. So for me, with neurodiversity, it's all about asking the other human being that I'm with and saying, how does that impact you and your capacity to be with me, your capacity to consent and understanding? And even in asking that question, am I making any fucking sense to you whatsoever? So I think it's really important to play stupid. Honestly, treat me like I'm a 3-year-old and I really don't understand you. Because then I can really get to know you, because you have assumptions in your head. Every time you meet someone, you have assumptions. I have tattoos. It's amazing some of the assumptions people make. I remember walking to a 6th form college with my second daughter, and this lovely young 17-year-old coming up to me and saying, hi, would you like to come over to my table? And I was like, yeah, sure. What's it about? She said, it's about a grant. And I said, okay. What, for her, for me, she said, you're entitled to a grant as a family. And I said, oh, cool. I don't think I am. And she went, no, you are. And I said, look, before we go any further, can I just ask you why you think I'm entitled to a grant? This is a true story. And she said, oh, because you don't have a degree. Oh, okay. Why don't I have a degree? She said, oh, now she's starting to realise her mistake. And she's only 17 as well. Like, you know, this poor human being, she's clearly been told to go up to people, like, fucking hell. So just stand there behind the table with a great big sign on top instead. Way better. And she said, I said, why did you make those assumptions? And she said, I said, because honestly, I mean, back then I would have had less, but I've got a degree, I've got an MBA, I've got an MSc, and I've got like 7.5 postgrads. Like, fuck.
She knows her letters.
I know my letters. I know my letters. Iceberg. I know my letters. Right, so I can just about do the alphabet, I think. So it was really interesting that she came up to me and she said, oh, it's because you've got tattoos. And I went, wow, okay. And coloured hair. I had very pink hair at the time. I lost my hair. It's very thin now compared to what it was before.
Why did that happen? Why did that happen? What was that? Thank you.
Again, apologise for them. Right, so I lost my hair due to a treatment. You can't say it. Right, and you know,
Like-
and back in it's very thin, but it was all pink and lilacs and all sorts of things before. Now, can't bleach it, can't do anything, it's all breaking off. So it's a bit of a nightmare as it's growing back slowly but surely. But what's interesting is the assumptions you make, because I had coloured hair and I had tattoos, therefore I cannot be educated. I was like, blimey, just so you know, 1 in 3 people have tattoos in the UK, and that is only going to go up, not down.
Here, here.
Says a very tattooed human being. So it's really interesting the assumptions that we make, even around anything, even if we don't know someone's brain and the way that they work. And you know, I think people can see things as deficits, whereas actually they're often advantages. They're wonderful things. If our brain works differently, you just need to get to know the other person's brain. And it's amazing how people think like people go, I don't ever want to meet a psychopath. I'll tell you what, if I'm in the middle of a jungle and I don't know how to get out, I'm going to be following the psychopath. I'll tell you now, because they're going to get out probably because they are just interested in themselves. Follow that one. Like, I'm going. That's a really good thing. And we see, God, that these things we say, oh, psychopath. No, it's not what you think it is. There are plenty of people. There could be people here with some kind of antisocial personality disorder, and you would never know in a million years. We just watch the films. We believe those things, don't we? Those extremes that we see, and they're just not true. So, again, it's the assumptions. So for me, does that answer your question enough? What do you think?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
What would you add to that at all? I'll come back to you, I promise.
Talking about assumptions, it got me thinking about, we make assumptions about neurodivergency, but what about like physical disabilities?
Yeah, all of them.
The amount, like, I'm very open to saying I've got a physical disability, and the conversation changes. So like, they're like talking to me that they want to play, but then the second I say that I've got something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, like,
So is my daughter.
Oh, cool.
Well, not so cool, but yeah.
It's a rare one. Find someone else. It's like,
but then the second I say I've got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I'm like, oh, I don't want to play with you anymore. You know, and it's like, the second you say you've got any form of disability,
People are frightened,
it's a red
aren't they?
flag.
Yeah.
It's the unknown.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Ehlers-Danlos used to also be called hypermobility spectrum disorder, and there are like loads and loads of different classifications. And in fact, it's one I do use on an example about consent, because elasticity in the skin impact on how people digest things. There can be serious vomiting, there can be all sorts of things. So you do need to know to say, how will I mark you? What will happen? How will you recover? How are your joints? How's your nerve pain? What sort of symptoms do you have? What does it mean to you? It just needs understanding, but a lot of people don't want to put the fucking effort in. But I say, don't you know, if somebody can't put the effort in there, even if I'm normal, whatever the fuck that word means, like, let's say, you know, I'm considered whatever this is in this bracket of normal, you're going to make fucking huge assumptions about me as well, without knowing. And a lot of people don't want to share their mental health or their physical health issues. Please do. It's irresponsible not to. Rain Grey is quite a famous, I've spoken about her before, she's quite a famous sex-educated porn star and kinkster. And there's a really big story that she writes about. If you've seen me before, you've heard this before, maybe, where she was being tied in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and she was with a rigger dominant top, whoever he was, who was very blasé about his diabetes, so it didn't really matter. But the way he was tying her and what he did, he then unfortunately went to some kind of, I don't know which height it was, but he went down. As he pulled the rope, he broke her jaw. And she's tied to the tree with no means of doing anything, because he hadn't checked his own insulin, glucose, all those different bits and pieces, because he was like, it doesn't really matter. No, I'm sorry, you're in the middle of the woods. Give me a fucking phone and a hand to use in case. Tie the fucking thing to my hand. I don't care. You know, but that's, you know, he broke her jaw. And that was irresponsible of him, because he wasn't looking after himself. And if you can't look after yourself, you can't fucking look after me. You were going to say.
I was going to ask, how would you see or hope that the kink scene would advance or develop in the future?
That's like asking me. That's such a good question, isn't it? The same I would hope humanity would, with a bit more fucking kindness, consideration and respect, and without assumptions. I clicked through Field, of which I saw your profile there the other day.
Nice talk, yeah.
It made me laugh. So I was like, oh shit, and there's Cosmic. Fucking hell.
one after the other. Let's make this a party.
On the 14th, I'm doing a workshop for therapists, and it's all about What the fuck do you do being a kinky, queer, poly person on the scene and being a therapist and having this sort of problem? It's all about that. And then it's also going to be about how do you as a person come and find therapy, and what does that look like, and what are the rules around it? Because this is a serious issue. You know, I can sort of go, oh, there's a client. Fuck, I can't unsee that ever now. Like, because we're in a small community. And you can really, it's some interesting boundaries, and it's not covered within the normal spectrum of therapy. So the amount of people who say, oh, I'm into ethical non-monogamy and I'm just looking for this. And they're like, you're just looking to get laid, a lot of them, if you really read them. Do you understand what ethical is? And I have a conversation and they say, oh no, I just saw it. I thought it was pretty cool that I could just, see whoever you want. No, it doesn't work that way. It's not the way it works. How do you know? I do. I don't want to go into it. I don't want to give you my time now. I'm not interested. But it's a real thing there. For me, it's about respect. It's about care. And it's about stop expecting other people to be your dispenser for sex, for anything, for kink, for, you know, these massive assumptions we make around other human beings that that they don't know themselves. Like, oh, I can make you orgasm. Really? I've slept with nearly 1,000 people.
Don't go
Don't
there.
really.
Don't be a cosmic, please.
I'm really fed up with that whole thing of like, and I'm really sorry. It's not always penis owners. Majority is. I'm sorry, it is. Where, you know, oh, you haven't met the right man yet. Oh, fucking hell. That makes my back hurt. That the weight of that is shocking. How about I haven't met the right human, or how about it just might be my physiology? How about that? I've slept with people, humans, and I don't orgasm through penetration. I'm with 70% of cunt owners in the world. But what you find is, I then have those conversations, oh no, you know, every single person I've slept with has. Or they've lied to me. Which is more likely. So I would like us all to stop lying. I would like us to have more respect and more care. And put some more investment. There's this real thing going away from relationships, or calling it relationships. I'm in a relationship with you lot right now for only for an hour, only for 50 minutes, but it's one where there's something going on between all of us. Call it what you like, but don't call it something it isn't. If you've learned something from someone, it's a form of relationship. If someone gave you something, that's a form of relationship. We say a thing called connection nowadays. I fear that we're going to end up in this Bruce Willis future where he did that film where everybody lived virtually and had bodies out, and they were living and having sex with all sorts of people, but really it was your Uncle Fred or whatever. That's a bit dark and deep, isn't it? Well, not really your Uncle Fred, but that's what it felt like. So for me, what about for you? What do you want?
Oh, right. Yeah. So,
well, I've already proved the point over there,
yeah.
but this lovely human. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
But if you don't know, how can you get it?
Exactly. I think, well, as much as say, like, less drama around things. People tend to want things to explode. Cancel culture's horrific at the moment. Just people to treat people more like humans. I want to be one up because I've just managed to do something or whatever.
I think everybody likes a bit of drama. The drama triangle is a really important piece of psychology you can teach anybody. Has anyone heard of the drama triangle? No, so few have.
No, but I like the one
Well, stop coming every fucking month then. So,
What could you do without us? You miss us. Yes.
Not long enough time.
No. So the drama triangle is a lovely piece of psychoeducation that was written by transaction analysis, and it basically talks about, it's a triangle that we step on if we're in a non-adult place. So a non-adult place, so my perfect example is, used to come back, used to work on the street, tired, frustrated, be on the train home thinking, I'm really tired, trains are running late, I'm not getting home, it's near enough midnight. I used to work there twice a week and one Saturday a month. Okay, no, that's great. I bet no fucking cunt has cleaned the hole. It's one of my first thoughts. I bet no one has fucking emptied the dishwasher. So I'm feeling very much like a victim at this point. That's the bottom of the drama triangle. So it's called Karpman's triangle with a K if you ever want to look it up, Karpman. So I'm feeling like a victim, and I'm using victim language. Nobody ever, everybody always. The world is against me. Oh my God, the world doesn't give a shit. That's what we've got to really understand. The world doesn't persecute you. It doesn't care. There's a big difference in that. So I'm feeling like a victim straight away. Oh God, I haven't even had a proper dinner, and I bet they have, and the hob isn't clean. That's, and I'm really starting to feel those things. And then I can walk into the house, so I'm feeling like a victim, and I'm not saying, hi everyone all right, everyone have a nice day. No, I'm going straight into the fucking kitchen. Told you, fucking hob isn't done, or the dishwasher, and I'm opening the dishwasher door, and it's slamming on the hinges. That dishwasher door has been changed quite a few times. I don't do this anymore, but and I'm pulling it out, and then somebody walks in, and they don't know I'm on the triangle. So, and it's like a sheath of ice, like whoosh, they can just slide on in. Hello, did you have a nice day? They've got no idea where I am. Now I'm going to jump to persecutor. It'd be fucking better if you'd have emptied the dishwasher. Anyone had this argument before? I bet you have. It's fucking better if you. It doesn't matter what it is. The dishwasher could be the bed. It could be anything. Every couple or throuple has this argument. It'd be better if you'd have emptied the fucking dishwasher. Now they've got a choice. They can say, "Oh, I'm not playing that game," and they can just walk away. Oh, that's it. Walk away. Because I'm still persecuting. Because I'm cross. But they're not going to play. It's the most healthy thing to do. Is just walk away or say, "Would you like to talk to me like a human being?" Just to check. But no, they don't do that. They're either going to come on as the victim, probably, could be persecutor, also could be rescuer. So they're the three positions on the drama triangle. So I'm there sort of huffing and puffing, and they say very defensively, well, I've had a really busy day. Victim, persecuted. Busy day? It's fucking midnight and I've just walked in. You don't know what a busy day looks like. Let's say they've been at school. Let's say it's one of my kids. And it is every argument you've ever had. And they say, well, I had to do homework and I had to do all these things. Yeah, but you fucking ate. I didn't. Or whatever. I mean, it's shocking, I know. But let's say I didn't. Shocking shit. Right, so, and then they might decide to flip. So persecutor is you must, you should, you always, you never, you've got to, this is the right thing to do. It's absolute. It's really absolute in our conversation rather than saying, oh, I can take myself off the triangle and I'll show you different things that you can do. Oh, well, they might turn to rescuer. All right, let me help you. Oh, I don't want your fucking help now. It's too late. You should have thought about it before. Why didn't you do it an hour ago? You didn't think of me or whatever. And rescuing is also massive with these things. Anyone got one of these? A phone? So I'm like this. So like I get a message at 3 o'clock this morning and it wakes me up because I stupidly left my phone on loud. And it's my daughter's fiance saying, can you ping Darcy's phone? She's lost it. Can you press find my phone? I'm like, it's 3 o'clock. I've just done 40,000 steps. I'm really tired. Okay, so where is she? Oh no, I'll go to find my phone. I knew how to do it. But if I didn't know how to do it, I might have said to a partner or someone in my bed, can you show me? They snatch the phone and they do it for me. You know, try to open a jar and someone just takes the jar off you, like your bottle, you're struggling with it. I just nick it off you and open it and give it back to you because I think I'm doing something wonderful for you because I'm rescuing you. You'd be like, what the fuck, I didn't want you. Or with this sort of thing, it's like, I still don't know how to do it and you've just done it for me. I didn't ask for your help. This is also around consent. If you're really struggling with a jam jar and you want someone to come and rescue you, get off the drama triangle, be an adult and say, please, could you open this jam jar for me? That's not rescuing. You wanted. So it's really important to get off that triangle. And the way to get off it is to be adult, to be humble, to not be persecutory, to be aware, to be in command of who you are, and to be able to ask for those things. But most people do that from a rescuing perspective, and it's quite a hideous place to be. It is not a good place to be, the drama triangle. It's a really good thing to get off. Anyone ever been on it with anyone ever? Children, friends, family? Yeah. It's really good to try and step off it and just say, the way I could have done that differently would just simply to be send a text and say, it's 6 o'clock. If somebody could empty the dishwasher, that would be wonderful. Not for me. I'm not asking for a favour. When I teach families, or especially around children, it's not about jobs in the house. It's about responsibility. Part of your responsibility as a child and as an adolescent and as an adult is to do these things in this home. They're not chores. They're responsibilities, and they're of value, and we have to split them according to age, and that's fair. Even if you didn't ask to be born. You didn't ask to be born, fair enough, but you are here, therefore these are the responsibilities. These are chores which you can earn money for. These are extras. This is a part of life's responsibility. And if you're not a dishwasher, well, you'll need to learn to empty it. Just part of life's responsibility. It's really interesting. People really get stuck on the drama triangle, and they do it in kink as well. You know, it's not fair. I haven't met anyone. Someone should be showing me. Why can't I have sex? Why is everyone else doing all these things? They're not. They're not. They're just not. It's just not true. We get this really weird concept, I think, around social media as well. Of everyone's doing everything, fear of missing out or whatever it is. Oh my God, they're having a great time and it's not for me and I'm not having it. It's like, oh, it's not true. That picture was the same as that person was wearing 6 months ago. You're going to ask.
Yeah, other question. How do you know if your own or your partner's or anyone's preferences are healthy sexual desires or a sign of something that they might help for? Or you?
I think that's a very good question and it's a really hard one to answer. I think as kinksters, we like to think that our kink is this wonderful free choice and that we're really not damaged and we're fine. And that isn't always true. There are some people trying to redo stuff or relive stuff, especially around trauma. And if someone tells you their experience of trauma eventually, I'd be really curious to say, how does that impact your kink? How does that impact how you are and how you are in a relationship? Has it ever gone wrong for you? Like, have scenes gone wrong? You can meet people who say, no, I'm fine, I'm just reliving this. But if you understand trauma, like if you're going to go and see a therapist, I would honestly ask if they are trauma trained, not informed, trained. Bingo, thank you. It's really important, trauma, because if you have traumatic experiences, it's really important that you learn to deal with them healthily. Now, some people will argue that kink is a really healthy way to do it. It's healthy until it goes wrong, which it can do. So if you are, I hate the word triggered, but if you are triggered in a situation and something isn't good for you, so you want to replay a rape or a scene or something that's happened to try and regain power, the problem with the trauma is if you've had an experience, you haven't processed it through your brain. That's the easiest way to say it. We can spend hours on neuroscience and how that works, but the basic principle is you haven't processed it through your brain properly yet. So there are ways to process it. I don't say to people if I meet them who've got serious traumatic history, don't play, but I would say play, have a good time, but make sure you're in therapy at the same time as somebody who really knows about trauma. You might never know. You might never know till it blows up. But I think it's a really good question to ask. Why? That Laura said earlier, why? It's a really good question. Why are you kinky? Like, do you know the answer to that one for you? I'm not going to ask you personally here. It's very personal, but do you know why you're kinky? Well, it's because of this and this happened and there was this with my mum and this with my dad and there was this and then there was this situation. That's a history of trauma potentially. Or some people might say, oh no, I just really fucking like it. I've dreamt about it since I was yay high. Or somebody might say, no, as soon as I started to have sex, it didn't feel right. I want to have sex like this. Some people might compartmentalize sex away from kink. That's very normal as well. We just do kink, we don't have sex, or we just have sex and we don't do kink, or we do everything together. So for me, it's about the conversation, like neurodivergency. It's like the conversation about physicality, because that to me is also your mental health and your wellness to be here. If you look at, if you don't have to answer this, does everyone here know why they're kinky? Who does? Anyone?
Nope.
So actually, those that do are very few, which is interesting, isn't it? And people might know why or not, but it's an interesting story. It might just be that I grew up thinking about it. I know if you ask Jerry, he would freely say he grew up thinking about cowboys and Indians and putting the helpless woman on the railway line, and that was very much your history growing up, wasn't it?
Might have been, yeah.
Maybe.
You've shared it before, haven't
Yeah,
you?
well, that's yeah. In my day, which is, you know, I'm not you are, but in my day, it was black and white TV and the other cartoon.
Yeah.
Horror film where some woman gets burned at the stake, and that's
Yeah, and how fucked am I because that gave me an erection? Like, you know, like some awful feelings, but also, that gave me an erection. That was really nice. Oh, fanny flutters. Oh, they're like, it's really, so we respond to things, don't we? Just fanny flutters. It's a good word. I really like it. It's a good
Oh, I
tune.
loved it. I was just not expecting it.
I like it in Mamma Mia when she says, "You still my beating vagina." That she sees this really good-looking guy come up to her. She's like, "You still my beating vagina." So same sort of thing, because it is about blood, isn't it? Fluttering blood. It's all about, that's what it's about. So we might know, but we just might know that it turns us on. I think if someone shares a very traumatic history, I don't want to be a therapist to you. So if you're using this as therapy, I would prefer that you've got some proper professional help. Could anything go wrong when we're playing? I had somebody come in a workshop, oh God, I think it was last year, middle of the year, beginning of the year. And this person came in and said, I have very violent reactions when I'm played with. I'm likely to punch someone, hit someone, blah, 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 blah. And I said, right. And they said, well, what advice would you give? And actually, my advice was, I don't know if you were in that one, but I said, stop playing. And he went, who the fuck are you to tell me to stop playing? I went, I'm the person you just asked. But honestly, professionally, stop playing because you're a danger to others. If you are hitting out and punching out without consent, violently, because someone tied you up, because it's what you wanted, and you said, please flog me, and then you try and kick the shit out of them, that's not consent. That's not a good system that's been agreed or done. So you need to sort your shit out before you play. And I think we all have that responsibility to a certain extent. However, human beings heal in relationships with each other. That's part of the damage is done in relationship and possibly beforehand through birth and before. I didn't say it. So that over the years. So that's happened. So what we need to do is turn around and be aware and responsible of our own stuff and actually try and solve that and not make someone responsible for us, but at least share if we are having problems, because of course we all have problems and issues. Anyone here have some sort of problem or an issue at all? Physical, mental, emotional, like, you know.
More issues than gold.
Most people in the room. So we heal in relationship with others, but we shouldn't be abusive towards them about it. And I think that's where it crosses the line when you'll have a feeling of this doesn't feel right. It's not. That's why I was saying, kink, with all of this, for me, it's go slow. I get that we jump into bed with people. I get that we jump into play with people. I understand it. I want it all. I want it now. I want it delivered in latex or whatever. So I mean, I'm not into latex and stuff, but that's the feeling, isn't it? The immediacy of it. But is that necessarily healthy? I don't know. Yeah, it is. It can be. It can be great fun. If your first experience is a huge gangbang and it's what you wanted, fucking have it. It's great. It might not be great for everyone. You had your hand up.
I just wanted to say, for people that have trauma as well, and also when you have guilt of what you're into and things like that,
Yeah.
Is it something that you can suppress, or is it going to be something like eventually it's going to just come out? Like, is it, fall over? Like, is it healthy to suppress it, or how do you deal with the guilt, and is it normal to kind of say, oh no, I like it, but I'm not gonna do this stuff?
I feel bad about it and I feel guilty about it. I would say that's a really normal thing when people come into kink sometimes, and very normal for people with trauma. Overall, this isn't a therapy session, so I'm going to say it is not healthy to repress. It never is. It's a box that's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and one day it's going to explode. I meet people in their 50s, 60s and 70s who wish they'd done something in their 20s because they could have led a different life. Guilt is quite a normal part of, especially if we've been brought up in certain ways. If we've been brought up in families that don't approve of certain things, or they're very religious, or have the right way of doing things, you need to get married, you've got a good Catholic family, a good Muslim family, a good Islam family, you've got a good Jewish family. Christian, less so, but it's still there, of the way to behave and how you should be. And some cultures have a should as well. And there are lots of rules about how you should be and what you're going to do. There is often a lot of guilt and shame around this, especially if you have parents who have suppressed sexual desires and urges. And I'm working with somebody at the moment, for example. By the way, if I say I'm working with somebody, I have express permission and consent to talk about them. I don't just talk about my clients. They're all asked if it's okay. So I don't talk about anyone unless I have very express permission. And, the amount of guilt from her Greek Orthodox upbringing is phenomenal for her. And the shame she feels when she's going into being this wondrous, glorious fucking whore that she loves.
I laughed
because it's the same. Yeah, okay. Good guess then, maybe. But so she's really feeling that. And it's the oppression of everything that's come. So we feel guilty when we're doing something that somebody else thinks we shouldn't do. What we've got to work out is it what I want to do? And how much have I taken in of the factors from somewhere else that says you should or shouldn't be this way? Gender, for example, you're born into the body. So, who do you want to be? Who are you? Be you. And that's really important. And there are restrictions because bodies have the wrong shapes and things for us as well. What's wrong with saying I'm in the wrong body? This isn't right for me. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be this human. What's wrong with saying I don't want to be this person when it comes to sex or to kink or anything else as well? Fucking hell, you've got the right to be you. The problem is not everyone agrees with that. So there is a lot of pressure. And I can feel you're upset from here, so I'm going to stop talking. So I would suggest that you maybe talk to somebody, get a little bit of support, maybe try and find a very kink-based therapist, or try and find somebody that so you can get some support and help to get rid of that shame. The danger, I think, as well, to come back to your question as well, which hits both, is part of a trauma response is we all know fight, flight, freeze, probably. Do you know that there's also fuck, friend, flop, foe, and fawn? There are lots of fucking F's there, right? So, and when you think about things like fawning or fucking as a trauma response, I'm only having sex with you because I think it's the only way to keep myself safe. Not only do I not want that as a top, I fucking don't want to do it as a bottom either. And fawning and submission are a very interesting collaborative process for a lot of people. So I do think we have to be careful. And I think that takes time to try and understand. I once went out with someone, he had severe depression and severe sexual issues. I said to him, that's not a problem. I don't want to be a therapist, otherwise I can't fuck you anyway. So I don't want to be a therapist. That, that's a very big thing. So I don't want this. However, what I want you to do is get the help that you need. So can we say that over the next 3 months that you find someone to talk to, that you find out who you are, and you get the help that you need? Because he was in bed every night from like 6:30, 7, so we didn't have a chance to talk very much. And then some of the sexual stuff he went through, he never actually managed to physically orgasm inside a woman before he was heterosexual. And that can happen. That's okay. I work with this stuff. I know it can be sorted, helped if the person wants to help. And he said, yes. And then, okay, you can say bingo. I was then diagnosed with cancer. It was Christmas.
Bingo!
And I said to him, okay, so we're 3.5 months in. Have you sorted that therapist? He went, no, but I'm going to stand by your side. Don't worry, I'll look after you. I fucking need your help looking after me, mate, first of all. Number 2, you can't look after yourself even. You haven't sorted out therapist. You haven't got some really serious support to change any of these things. How the fuck are you going to look after me? Because I'm not having a 5th child. I've already got 4 daughters. And in fact, I expect them to step up and help look after me a little bit now because they're all adults. And my sister and other people. So I had family and friends around me who could, so it was slightly different. But I wasn't going to look after another child. But so for me, he had no responsibility because he hadn't sorted his shit out. So I said, I wish you well, Happy New Year. Oh God, really between that stage where you're never supposed to break up with somebody according to the rules. But I was out because again, something he'd done really impacted me and what I could do. So I was like, I'm sorry, I'm out. And we don't know that sometimes. You were talking about time. We don't know that. That's 3.5 months down the line. I don't know that. And that can happen as well. Jesus, all that love bombing and all that initial attraction that we feel, it's wonderful, isn't it? New relationship energy. It's also really dangerous. We don't, if you've ever watched the series How I Met Your Mother, when that glass ceiling breaks, when you hear someone's laugh and you go, oh, fuck, that's awful. Has she always laughed like that? Or has he always said that? Have they always said that? Have they? And you're like, shit. And it's a realization. But hopefully what love does to us is it teaches us to put up with that for long enough so we end up staying with someone. You don't have to. You do have choices.
Last time I recorded my answer, I struggled to recall my details of the Google Q&A. Can I voice note my answer?
Right, hang on. So you want to voice note just what I'm about to say with the question you're about to ask?
Yeah, is that okay? Because I struggled to kind of...
Okay, is that okay with the room? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Anyone a no? I'm giving you an opportunity. Anyone a no? Because it's just going to be me and him talking. Yeah? Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. So I've been in the kink since October last year.
Okay.
And I've met a handful of amazing, respectful play partners. I met one particular one at a kink party in January who I've been spending a lot of time with recently. And there's strong feelings that are developing, mutually. And I guess my question is, how do you deal with jealousy and insecurity and vulnerability in this space?
So that's a good question. How do you deal with jealousy, insecurity, and vulnerability in kink and in polyamory? It's the same thing. So multiple relationships. Jealousy is an interesting feeling. So jealousy is an insecurity. So what jealousy really is a fear of loss. That's what it means. It's nothing else. It's a fear of loss. So if you meet someone else, they're going to, this is going to happen. They're going to be bigger, better, richer, stronger, thicker, brilliant, whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what that word is. I spent a long time seeing someone who was a lot younger than me, and his major fear was that I was going to go off and meet someone who was way more intellectual and successful than he was. Whereas I was, please shag as many beautiful young women as you can because I'm a cut queen. But it was still a fear of like, oh God, what if they're much nicer than I am? No, shit, what do I do? So that's what jealousy is. It's a fear of loss. So it's about sitting down and having a conversation with that person and saying, these are my feelings, these are my fears, what are your fears? How do we work them out between us? How do we talk about this weekly, regularly, to see where we both are? How do we say, are there any boundaries about what we do with other people? How do we have a conversation with others? You know, it's really difficult because in polyamory, what we say is it should be kind of limitless, right? You know, everyone should love everyone and it's fine. That's a heap of shit. No one is limitless. I mean, it really is a heap of shit at the end of the day. If you're in hospital and you want that partner there and they say, I'm really sorry, I'm just shagging my other partner, you are going to feel let down. You are. You know, if you really want that person there, unless you're completely solo and happy with that. So it might be that you are those people are less than everyone, not less than, as in they're less, you're less likely to find that person who is really okay, completely alone. And you might find some of them. So what you need to have is a frank conversation and discussion. You can have it facilitated by somebody else. You two can do it. There are meetings that you can have, like you can look up radar meetings, RADAR, which are really good for polyamory. And they are a regular meeting that talks about what's working, what isn't, what do we need to do about it, whose responsibility is it, what would that look like? And it's all about, it might be about putting some restrictions on what it is you're going to do with other people. I'm really happy for you to do this. I'm not so happy for you to do this. But as soon as you start restricting, by default, you're restricting the third, fourth, and the other parties that are involved in that person's life. And a lot of us don't want to meet someone with restrictions. I can meet you. I can never stay the night. I can't kiss you. I can't come inside you. But apart from that, I'm up for any form of relationship. Maybe not. But we all have some definition of what's okay by us. So it's really working out, what are you frightened of losing? What does that look like? Is it, and it'll be about our own insecurities, that the person is different to us. If you watch, there's a couple of TED Talks by a woman called Esther Perel, who talks about insecurity and infidelity. And one of the things she talks about that most couples therapists talk about as well is what you find if you've got a very heterosexual married couple, what she often asks is, if he had an affair, is, was she tighter? Did she feel better? Why did you kiss her? What was it like? She wants to know this superficial, ridiculous stuff because it's about her own insecurities in that very heterosexual, monogamous environment. However, that's representative of all of us. Is a person better? Like, what does it mean? It's a fear of loss. You managed to live without this person before, you'll manage to live without them afterwards. You will feel a lot of hurt, however, because of the investment that you're giving. So what you're talking about is how okay are you with your own vulnerability? To go into that. My definition of trust is different to other people's. I don't have to trust you, whether you are fantastic or loyal or faithful. I trust that I will be okay because I know I'll be okay. I will feel really sad, I will feel impacted, and I might have a shit time for a few days, weeks, months, it might even be a year or two, and I know I'll be okay. Can you say the same? That's not for you to answer now, but it's how do we do this? So you need lots of conversations around what boundaries and limits come in, and then you have to discuss the practicality of that. Unicorns called unicorns for a fucking good reason, because they're not really that rare. They're very rare. They're a magical, mythical creature. It always ends up with something along the line. So this is going to impact our relationship. So you need to have really good conversations about that. That's what it's about. What are you frightened of losing? What will it mean to you? What will it mean to them? And how do we go forward with it?
Thank you.
We're at the end. Well, I've got 2 minutes left, really, because Dave's going to talk about violet wands. And if you want to come back, I'm talking about consent in its every form at 4 o'clock. Feel free to do so as well. If you exit that way, please, even if you want to stay for this, you have to just go back round and come and sit back in if you want to come for anything.